Bedford Local Pension Board. Agenda item 1, questions from members of the council and members of the public have not been informed of any questions. 2, to receive any apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Rigby, although Councillor Rigby may arrive, he's running late, and Councillor Townsend and Serena Corso.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the meeting of the board held on 21st of May. I'll just go through these page by page and shout if there's anything that you want to have further information on or you want to check. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Members happy to agree those minutes? Thank you. Item 4, disclosure of local and or disclosable pecuniary interest. Anybody got anything they need to disclose? So, item 5, appointment of vice chair. Have nomination
To nominate Becky Bennett.
Everybody happy with Councillor Bennett? Continues fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Item 6, chairman's announcements. BCPP running the 5 training sessions at the moment. I've been on 2 out of the 3 so far. I'll catch up on the other one. If you've not managed to get on them, it is worth, I think, catching up on them at some later stage. I assume they're going to be available for a month or so. So don't think if you've missed one, that's it, it's gone. It will be available. So, and I know a lot of it's the same as last year's, but I think it's worth the reminder, worth the refresher. ECPP annual conference in Leeds in 24th, 25th of September. Are we looking for volunteers for that?
We will be, yes, yeah. I don't think they've asked us to collect names yet, but yeah, that's when it comes around.
I thought I mentioned it's before the next meeting. Then,
yes, yeah.
It's open to all board and committee members. We have a new board member, Councillor Heather Townsend from Central Bedfordshire. Fortunately, she's on holiday this week, so not able to be here. Hopefully, she'll be at the next meeting. And you may have noticed or seen some reference to the fact that MHCLG issued 3 documents on 29th of March on the Fit for the Future. They cover investment strategy statements, asset pooling and fund governance. Just arrange them to be sent out to you if you can find some time to look through them at some stage. Obviously, they'll bring back a report to the next meeting on how we're going to address them and what we need to do. But they're quite fundamental to how pension funds going to work for the next few years. So be short of bedtime reading at some stage. It's worth plowing through it.
So can we just find out, if possible, what they're going to cover at the conference and the itinerary? Because if it's so fundamental, Chair, it should be picked up at the conference as well.
At the BCPP conference.
Yeah.
I imagine it probably will be covered. I've not seen the agenda yet, but certainly I would expect them to be covering quite a lot of detail, really.
Okay, thank you.
Item 7, the pension fund committee minutes from the 25th of June. Won't go through these page by page, but are there any noting from our point of view? Are there any questions anybody has on any of those? Okay, happy to note those. Item 8, pension fund administration. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so I've run through the key points of this report. So starting with section 5.1, it's the key performance indicators. And as you'll see or may have noticed on this quarter's report, some of the normal statistics are looking a bit different to how they've been in the past. It's been quite a busy quarter for us. We've undertaken a number of projects, one of which was to go digital by default. That caused quite a bit of work in terms of the amount of communications that went out in a very short space of time, and members opting out of electing to opt out of digital communications. We've also had the access and fairness regulations come in, and that's taken a few process amendments to take that into account as well. On the positive side, some of our KPIs where we have normally not performed ever so well are now up to, in particular, B11 and B14, are now doing extraordinarily well. That's because we've invested a lot of time in looking at the process, using automation where possible, and completely refining the process so that it's smooth, and quite a bit of it is actually automated, so we can apply that to the rest of these processes, which is already underway. So we should see, after this period of investment, these performance indicators improving across the board. Another thing that we've had, interestingly, is when we went live with our new portal, self-service portal, we had quite a few inquiries about transferring out and false quotes, which caused a bit of work. I think it may have been the novelty factor of a button that can be pressed, and it reduced work for us, but we've built in some caveats around that now, and some extra steps so that people, if they're seeing what happens when they press the pause button, they don't. We go back to them and say, well, are you sure? So pieces of work like that are going on. It's great to have that digital engagement, but we need to manage it as well in terms of how much work it is causing, especially if it doesn't actually need doing. So that's largely that on the KPIs. Section 5.8 gives a bit of a rundown in terms of the activities that are also going on in terms of statutory activities and service delivery improvement activities. The section on there in access and fairness and what work that is going to involve for us over the next 18 months. It's a fair bit of work, tracing members who are now members that weren't previously, to pay them some money that they may be entitled to. McLeod, I'm pleased to say, it's pretty much finished. We did really well to sort of manage that in about 6 months, really, of having a new team available to do that. So benefit statements will be live in that respect. We won't have to report any breaches of the law to the regulator this year. Not that we did last year either, because we didn't have to, but yeah, we'll be in a very good place with cloud. I've already mentioned Engage, the online portal. Membership numbers have increased dramatically following our 3 communications about going digital. Members can still use Engage and opt out of digital comms. I might be one of those members. But we're getting an awful lot of work being generated coming through Engage in place of other ways of communicating, which is really good. We're having about 130 visitors a day using the portal. So we're hoping to develop those statistics further so we can track the level of engagement, but that's going really well. Other than that, I think that's largely all to report, except for I've slightly changed in section 5.16 the layout of the internal dispute resolution procedure data that I've normally present to you. So I'm giving a bit more information on the complaint cases that we've had. Since I wrote this report, one has moved on from the 10th of March, one illustrate there, that's now at stage 2. But yeah, I'll keep producing this information in this format so you can kind of get a feel for what the complaints are about, rather than just the numbers. Other than that, I think that's all. Let's take any questions.
Any comments, questions?
Might be.
Don't say I like the additional information on the IDRP. I think that helps us to understand the process and what's happening.
Yeah.
And can you pass on the thanks of the board to your team, the McLeod, because it's been a far more difficult task than was originally
Absolutely.
envisaged, isn't it?
Very much so, yes. So, yeah, thank you, I will.
Good performance there. Okay, members, happy to note that report. Thank you. Move on to item 9, regulation and governance update. This.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report covering the regulation and governance updates. So there's a section on there about pensions dashboard, which notes that phase 2 of consumer testing is continuing. So this has actually resulted in a small number of successful matches against Bedfordshire's data. And as testing numbers increase, we will be able to learn more about how the system is being used and how well our matching criteria is working. And also let us know if we need to tweak that matching criteria or amend any of our internal processes. But the numbers are pretty small at the moment. I think possibly less than 10. And we don't have sight of whether that's one individual going on the dashboard multiple times or whether that's 10 different people. So all that sort of information will continue to flow through for us. The report also includes information at paragraphs 5.26 to 5.28 on a recent data breach. And since no sensitive personal information was involved in this breach, so it's unlikely that it will result in any risk to the rights and freedoms of the affected individual. But that's just to note that for you. Paragraphs 5.12 to 5.17 reference the guidance that we were speaking about earlier, the 3 sets of guidance that have now been issued alongside the future regulations. So we're now reviewing policies in line with that guidance to make sure that they are compliant with the new rules. So some of it will require sort of tweaking policies we've already got, otherwise it'll be sort of rewrite in some areas. So we will bring those policies to board as they get completed throughout the course of the year. It is our intention to run a training day in the autumn to pick up some of the changes that recently taken place and what they might mean for the work plan of the board over the coming months. So the training strategy is one of the documents that's currently under review. So the strategy itself will be shared later in the year, but ahead of the strategy itself being finalised, I have included a proposed training plan, Appendix B, so you can see the training phase that we've got coming up this year. Maybe subject to change if there's, we decide that we need to focus on particular items and as more courses become available. But obviously I'll email out to everybody as those courses are available for booking. I think that was also I was going to add to the content of the report itself, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Any comments, questions?
Just a matter of interest, the matching criteria, the national, is that not directed nationally? Is there discretion at local level as to how that would work, what criteria are used?
Yes, there is. So we have guidance from the Pension Administration Standards Association that give you recommended criteria that you might want to follow, but it does vary a little bit from scheme to scheme depending on the quality of their data, which their sort of key matching criteria they might use. So, for example, we would probably be looking at national insurance number, surname, and date of birth, the key items. But we understand that national insurance number isn't obligatory for them to enter. So therefore you need to allow other criteria, so individual identifiers such as mobile phone number, email address, things that are verified on the way through. So there are some flexibilities around that. So you have to strike a balance between making sure you're making correct matches, so you're not, making it too open that anybody can match on data that might not be theirs, but also allowing enough matches to come through so you don't end up with lots of possible matches, which you then have to investigate on an individual basis. But yes, and we do have a policy on that. So we are at administration level, we are adjusting that as in line with what we're finding out from the data match we've had so far. But we can bring that back full board to let them know once we've kind of got for this first stage of what we're now using as matching criteria.
Happy to note the report. Item 10, the draft annual report and accounts. Right. Thank you.
So this item provides an opportunity for the board to review the draft 24-25 pension fund accounts and annual report. ahead of it being approved by the Pension Fund Committee in line with best practice, and the Pension Fund Committee will approve it in September. So if I just take you straight to Appendix A, where the annual report is, and what I propose to do is just sort of step through the different sections of the report, and I'm happy to pick up any questions after each section or the end. So the annual report is prepared in accordance with the guidance issued by the Scheme Advisory Board back in April 2024. So if I go to section 1, and that's on page 3 of Appendix A. Section 1 is the overall fund management, and this sets out the senior officers, the fund's advisors. It also discusses our approach to risk management and the use of financial instruments. So it's fairly factual information there. Section 2 covers governance and training. So it outlines the fund's governance arrangements, committees and board membership. There's also a record of attendance meetings throughout 2025-26. And there's also details of training events and a summary of training undertaken by each member of the Pension Fund Committee and of board. The work of the committee and the board is also described in this report through the reports of the chair of the committee and the chair of the local pension board. Section 3 covers financial performance, and this includes information on the fund's cash flows, the fund's budget monitoring position or budget outturn position, and commentary on non-investment assets and liabilities, contribution collection, and overpayments. So in terms of highlights in this section, on page 30 of the report, it shows that the fund was cash flow positive by 11.210 million in respect of member experience, and also allowing for administration and other expenses. So I think we've discussed this before, but when we set the budget for 26-27, there is an expectation that cash flows will potentially turn cash flow negative during 26-27, marginally cash flow negative during 26-27, or sort of cash flow neutral, I suppose. We will keep that under review during the course of this year and over the valuation period. And I suppose that reflects the sort of gradual maturing of the fund and the ratio of pensioners to active members. The budget monitoring is set out, and the budget outturn is set out on page 32. And this showed an overspend of 1.536 million, and that's largely driven by investment management fees, reflecting higher asset valuations and new investments which weren't budgeted for at the time of budget prepared. There were also smaller overspends in respect of administration, governance and oversight. In terms of late payments, there's a table at page 34, and that sets out the late payments contributions, and that's consistent with the reporting that we have updated the board on during the course of the year in terms of the breaches. And then there's a section on overpayments as well, on page 35, and that table sets out overpayments recovered, written off, and outstanding as at outstanding as at March 2026. So moving on to section 4, and that's on page 36 of the report. This is the financial statements, and these are being prepared in accordance with SIPA's Code of Practice on Local Authority Accounting. So these were issued by the pension fund to the auditors on the 29th of May. And that's well ahead of the statutory deadline of the 30th of June. So we're pleased with the progress that we've made on that. The external audit is, and that's being undertaken by KPMG, started on 15th of June and is expected to conclude during September, where KPMG will issue their audit results report to the Audit Committee and the Pension Fund Committee. Section 5 covers investment strategy, investment performance, as well as our approach to responsible investment. You'll also see that the section shows the fund's strategic asset allocation and includes commentary on pooling. There is a table in here on page 79, which comprises of pooling costs and savings, and that table is incomplete in terms of this version. We're waiting for Board Education to provide the information to be able to for us to populate that, and that will be provided next month. Moving on to section 6, the administration section. This provides a summary of administration activities. It provides the KPIs that we've discussed in the previous reports. Provides membership trends and also details dispute resolutions as well. Section 7 is just a short report from the actuary. It provides a summary of the 2025 valuation, the key assumptions used then, and also an update on the position since the 31st of March 2025. Section 8 is the external audit opinion, which is blank at the moment, but that will be inserted once the opinion is issued by the auditors. And section 9 just provides links, additional information. It provides links to policies relevant to this report during the year, and it also provides a schedule of contribution rates and amount for each employer. So that's a canter through the annual report. I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Great document, really very professional and holistic. Just about who do we feel the audience is for the annual report? It's I suppose it does everything. It's
Yes.
And in such, I just wonder whether we know how much it's consumed and by who.
Yeah, so we're required to, there's effectively a template. There's set requirements that we're required to meet, and that's set out by the Scheme Advisory Board in their guidance issued in April 2024. And it's pretty prescriptive in terms of what we need to include in there. So, we comply with all of that information. In terms of the readers of the report, yeah, I mean, it does go on our website, so it's for members to look at. We submit it to the Scheme Advisory Board, and in fact, some of these our reports are collated. So all of the reports of the 86 LGPS funds in England and Wales are collated and brought into a single Scheme Advisory report, and they report each year on a holistic basis across the scheme. And I think they've been doing that since 2014. So a number of years now, and it provides, outlook for viewers that, view of the LGPS in its entirety. I think what we have tried to do in the past, and it is something that we, may look at again, is develop a condensed version or a couple of sides in a sort of leaflet form that's easily digestible for scheme members to look at in terms of the key highlights and stats in the fund. So I think that's something that we can look to do.
Excellent.
I would agree with that. I think that's lots of members can do that. I know it's difficult because a lot of information here.
I think the issues are to do with the fact that there's so much else going on in the LGPS at the moment, and with all of the work on Fit for the Future, but some of these things take a bit of a backseat, but that's something that has been on our radar, and we'll try and get to it this year.
Yeah, it wasn't intention to give you another job, but I think it is there's some really valuable information in there that I think really appreciate it.
Something that struck me reading through it right at the beginning and I just never given thought. Custodian. Will we still have a custodian after this year or after all this? Or will
Yes, so we will still, so we're in this interim period at the moment. Where we still require the services of a custodian,
Yeah.
Although we don't have any segregated mandate. The custodian does provide other services to us in terms of accounting reports, performance measurement, and we use them for capital call and distribution management as well. So that's something that we need to think about when we're looking at implementation. So yeah, we will consider that, and as well as we go through the implementation processes with order to case.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Members happy to note that? With no proposals to make to the committee then? Very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. Thanks very much. Thank you. Item 11. Independent chair. Is this you, Liz?
Well, yes, yeah. Sounds like it's you, but yes. So this is following on from the amendments to the board's terms of reference that we made last time round to allow for the extension to the independent chair's term of office. So the report recommends that the board now agrees the extension to the term for another 4 years, as it's felt that at this time of particular change in the LGPS, that the retention of knowledge and experience will benefit the pension fund and the board. So yes, the recommendation is to extend the chair's term for a further 4 years.
I'm happy to step out of the room if anybody wants to stay at this stage.
No.
Happy to have that. Yeah.
So do we need to propose and second, or we just need to agree?
I think just need to agree the recommendation.
Okay. Happy and agree. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Item 13, risk register.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's me. Okay, so there's a few changes to the risk register which have been highlighted in the appendix. So risks 4, 8 and 24, which relate to asset management and investment strategy. So they've been updated to reflect the changes that are coming in because of the changes to pooling. So we've rearranged some of the wording there and adjusted some of the wording for control measures. So we have actually increased the current risk level in relation to communications and the risk relating to not communicating adequately, just because there's so much going on at the moment. So we've got the digital strategy coming in, we've got the recent regulation changes, we've got things like the cloud. So there's more chance that we may not communicate with all of those things we want to, but hopefully our control measures will manage that for us. Have actually introduced a new control measure, which is around warnings to do with the use of artificial intelligence. So there's been a lot of discussion recently about people using artificial intelligence to ask questions about their pensions and not always getting particularly reliable information back because it sort of summarises information from different sources. So our communications are going to go out to members saying, please come to us, please come to respected sources for your pensions questions, rather than just relying on auto summarised information out from AI, and also a warning not to put personal information into AI, so not to just run the whole benefit statement through AI, things like that, just to make sure that information isn't getting out there for use on the wider internet. So our communications will incorporate those warnings to control measure. We're also revamping our website, and part of design of that will bring these considerations to bear, so that it's set out clearly, it's easy for you to find information, so it's easy for them to come to us to find the answers they're looking for rather than the wider internet. So that's all I was going to add to the report itself, but I have to take any questions.
I just wanted to say, it's clear, isn't it, how many changes you had to make as to how much is going on now, effectively no changes that you had to make.
Yes.
I think we're going to find a significant number of reports over the next year, updates, things, all due to new legislation.
And also just to say about when the members are looking at AI, it depends on the question that they ask and how they ask it, and which words they use. And a lot of people are perhaps not as aware of that.
Yes, very much so. I mean, I know that I sometimes put question into, and then I know from experience I'm not giving the right answer. So I just tweak the question ever so slightly and you suddenly get the right answer. So it's, yes, it's very subject to the original phrase of the question.
On the cyber attack, and thank you for mapping things out. That's very useful, and I'm glad to see consideration has gone up on cyber and technology. Are you happy about business as usual? Given last night, what happened to London Underground Transport last year? Somebody being successful, they've gone to trial, they're going to be sentenced today. Are we happy enough that we got a contingency to carry on business as usual if there was a successful attack?
Yes, so we've got a cyber policy and an incident response plan. So it very much depends on the nature of the incident. But within Bedford Borough Council, for example, who obviously supply most of our IT systems in terms of document storage and emails and things like that, they have a category of key services that they'll need to restore within certain timeframes. So pensions in terms of restoration of payment of pensions and payment of lump sums, so the financial considerations are right up there in terms of a service that needs to be put in, restored as soon as possible. And our pensions software team, I believe the restoration is 48 hours for us to be back up and running on the pensions database, and we have a disaster recovery routine that they run as well, so that can map our systems and put them into other places that we can then access them. So as far as possible, we have those contingency plans in place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add that we are planning to, well, we take that risk obviously very seriously, and we are planning to to undertake a test of those procedures and plans, which I think to see, as a sort of workshop. So it's, to step through, I suppose, our processes and make sure that, in an example of an incident, we know what we are doing, and the steps that we need to undertake.
It might be useful if somebody spends the time to read that, what's in the public domain, because what I heard last night, the hackers got somebody in Taylor to reset their password, and by doing that, they got in. So I understand the level of security now and changing password with all that, but there's a saying, it's good to learn, let your mistake be our future guide, and that's been all over the press in the last 48 hours. So thank you, Bob.
Our IT contractor that's providing the security, and they're constantly updating according to the threats that are coming.
Yeah, and they're constantly rolling out training as well around things exactly that, the use of passwords and the ways in which people will try and trick you into giving your password details away. So they're actually running a program of cybersecurity training at the moment, which all staff have to complete. So it's very much an ongoing process in response to new and emerging threats as well.
I think, working in the IT industry, I think there are so many, there are lots of things you can do. There are scenarios that councils have faced previously where things are down and they're taking weeks or months. You're dealing with ransom demands. There are scenarios where, of course, it's not possible to reinstate services as quickly as we would like to. And I just wonder whether there is those sorts of scenarios have been lessons learned from other councils that have been in those scenarios where any kind of mutual aid might be available from other councils, for example, pay. Don't know how that might work in your environment, but we certainly have that in policing environment, where a disaster recovery scenario is such that as a council you can't recover for several weeks. In that scenario, then we wouldn't be able to pay out pensioners, I suspect. And it's all about, you know, the cost of actually mapping all that out, and, you know, the cost of reinstating those disaster recovery scenarios. But I wonder whether it explicitly needs to be recognised that, you know, there are only so many things you can put in place, but if you have an incident that is catastrophic, it is just that, and it's, staff will be working to reinstate things, and, you know, you'll have SLAs that, you know, your IT team you'll be top, you know, virtually top of the list, I suspect. But if they are in a scenario where they, you know, you've been held to ransom, then it's, you know, you are where you are going to. I wonder what those comms look like. I know I've read your instant recovery plan, but I think we probably need to be realistic that there are scenarios where disaster strikes and then things take weeks to reinstate.
Yeah, I mean, so we are throughout this year going to be sort of testing out our recovery plans and, you know, staying through the processes. So that's something that will help us in terms of, you know, communicating. But as you say, you know, there may be circumstances where, you know, systems are down for very long periods of time and people simply can't get the information. So we need to think about how we can, ensure that we, you know, are able to make payments. I mean, in terms of the pension and payroll run, you know, we can, as I understand it, we can effectively rewrite the previous one. So, you know, there are ways in which we can, you know, we can sort of manage the situation. But so, you know, we take it really seriously, and we are looking to do more work on this. I think we ran a workshop this last year as well, and we'd probably look to do another workshop this, you know, later this year or early part of 2027 as well with board and committee. To sort of work through all of those issues and make sure that we're doing what we can to ensure that we can manage whatever companies through.
Any other comments, questions? Members have some note report. Thank you. Item 13, post-work programme.
Yes, I wasn't going to add much more to the report itself, other than to note that, you know, we've had the work plan laid out, but of course extra items might come in as we work through the next few months, just because of the changing nature of the regulations. But other than that, take any questions.
Any comments or questions? Up to note report. Thank you. A stewardship policy.
So this was that policy that went to the pension fund committee in June. So this is the stewardship policy. So the committee undertook a review of this policy back in March through the RI Responsible Investment Panel, and then, as I said, it was approved by the committee in June. So just, you know, by the way, background very briefly. So the policy outlines how the fund responsibly manages, allocates and oversees its investments to achieve long-term value for its beneficiaries. So the RI panel, Responsible Investment Panel, with the support of the fund's investment consultant and the fund's independent investment advisor, reviewed the current policy, and the priority themes in the policy, and decided to introduce two new themes in the areas of social and governance, as stated in the report. I won't go into those, but I'm happy to answer any questions in respect to those. And as I said, those two new themes were agreed or introduced into our updated stewardship policy. And I suppose that policy enables us to engage with Bordage Coast and articulate the views of the pension fund committee to Bordage Coast to ensure that we're able to do that in a sort of coherent manner. That policy is at Appendix A. So I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Okay, any comments or questions? Very much. Members have seen the report. Move on to item 15. Local Government Act 1972, exclusion of the public. To consider whether to pass a resolution under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 to exclude the public from the remainder of the meeting on the grounds that consideration of the following item of business is likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act. Members happy to pass that resolution. Thank you.